Good morning. My name is Leonard Ong, and I'm very happy to be here presenting at the 5th International ISACA Lisbon Chapter Conference. My presentation today will be about coming out stronger through digital transformation, going above and beyond. The year 2020 is an interesting year. I believe I speak for most of us that this is not the usual year that we have in our lifetime, right? And just to start the year with us on a lighter note, you can see that the year 2020 is the year where the new Star Trek characters was born, Baby Yoda, who is technically streaming at Disney Plus and the show The Mandalorian that started this year. We also see that every day when we look at the news, we could relate to this, my favorite sci-fi movies called Star Trek, where we look at the statistic on a daily basis. And it always feels that every month this year could feel very short because we are busy, or it can be very long because we are in the circuit breaker or lockdown and it feels extremely long. So these are just some of the interesting stuff that we feel across this year. The year 2020 is going to end soon, and I hope that things will be a lot better for all of us. This presentation, we will look at the positive side on how we can come up stronger and better from the challenges that we encountered this year. We know for a long time that with the Industrial Revolution 4.0, the business cycle are getting shorter and shorter. We have to keep on reinventing our processes, our product, services. How do we engage the customer, increase customer expectation? All are changing in the faster cycle. But this could mean in a different cycle for different businesses. However, when the pandemic hits, it really hit all of us, regardless of all the sectors. There are some sectors that are doing better, but most of the sectors and businesses are affected. And because of that, we have to respond to this situation. Just to give you some of the useful insight, this is the survey that was conducted by the Fortune magazine about 6 or 7 months ago. And the survey was done through the opinion of the CEOs of the Fortune 1000 companies. There are some interesting insight that I will just highlight with you 3 interesting points. The first one is that we will probably not see our workforce back in the office as it was before until sometime next year, or it may never be the case. So that remains to be seen. When it comes to business travel, with all the border closure and with all the protocol in place, it's unlikely that we will see business travel will thrive again until 2023. And even so, according to the latest projection, it may even stretch to 2025 unless a vaccine or there's a cure that is found sooner. But here's the one more interesting thing that I would like to share with you. This pandemic has accelerated the digital transformation in 75% of the Fortune 1000 companies. And that's the way it should be, because we have to reinvent ourselves in order to thrive and survive the current situation. So it is a good news for us. It's something that we must do. And I would like to share more about you based on my personal experience. So depending on what industry you are, if I can split the different industries in the 4 quadrants, you could see that there are some industries that are doing business as usual. These are typically the high viability companies with a low risk. It could be the government, it could be the online retail. They are not impacted as much. In fact, on the online retail, they are doing extremely well because people are buying stuff through online. But for all other industries, we are impacted in a different way, as I mentioned earlier. If you look on the top right quadrant, you will see that these are the services that has to continue to run: healthcare, police, fire response, supply chain, transportation. They have to run, but there's also a high risk with continuing operation. And one of the way we have to do this is that how do we decrease the risk so that we can continue to operate with a reduced risk? Now, the difficult situation will be on the top left quadrant. These are the industry that are badly affected by the pandemic. The airlines, because of the reduced travel, almost none. The restaurants that are forced to close, the retail business that also has to force to close, the hotels with low occupancies, close to none because of elimination of tourism, and as well as the education. And in this particular quadrant, then we have to look beyond. How do we go above the critical period? How do we reopen so that the business can survive and not close forever? So these are the things that we will see how digital transformation can help us in de-risking some of this and being able for us to continue the business as close as possible to the way it was before. Now, I would like to share something in regards to Singapore. If you look at the chart here, this shows a timeline where our government in Singapore are responding to the event. You can see that there are a number of budget that has been provided to the people in different forms. And this is also a significant year whereby the government has to take their reserve and use that to mitigate the impact of the crisis. There are multiple initiatives that was done. One, of course, to save the jobs. And this include the government of paying a portion of the eligible workforce salaries for quite a period of time. There's also a coverage for entrepreneurs, those who are self-employed. We have a steady number of graduates that are coming out from the universities, polytechnics, and they're looking for jobs. Then they're also ensuring that there is that kind of traineeship opportunities, because job may be scarce, but there is opportunities, plenty of opportunities to do traineeship. More importantly, how about if people who are displaced because of the pandemic? Well, there are a lot of training opportunities, including internship in big companies such as Google and other companies, whereby mid-career, anyone who is in the mid-career could change their work from a non-technology to a technology profession. And this actually is a good news for all of us, because digital transformation requires workforce, require people with the right competent skill. And here the government is helping us to ensure that we have the right people and the right skill. Now, one thing that I learned about digital transformation is that it is always the mind shift. We have to change our perception. And this is the fundamental of a successful digital transformation. The first, do we have the right driver? Why are we going through or starting or initiating digital transformation? There's a right reason, there's a wrong reason. And it could make a difference in the success of that initiative. If we are looking on how do we adapt to the situations, how do we improve customer experience, how do we be more efficient moving forward with the changing climate and industries, and thus will likely you will be persevere in the challenges and come out as a successful and stronger than before. However, if you are on the other side, whereby you just follower, or you're trying to enjoy the benefit that was given, you may not have the willpower and the determination to be successful. Mind shift number 2, we need transformative leaders, right? It's gone are the day whereby we could just maintain status quo, operating the service, operating our function, just to make sure that the lights is on. That's gone are those days. We have to move to be a transformative CIO or CISO. If you're a CIO or CISO, our language system, how do we enable capabilities? How do we adopt these new technologies? How do we innovate? How do we increase profitability and business agility? These are very different than speaking the technology lingos that we used to do. Moving on, and probably one of the most important thing, and I relate to this mostly because this is my area, cybersecurity. No digital transformation will ever be successful without incorporating cybersecurity. When you bring an offline business processes to digital channel, or when you increase your engagement to your customer through digital channel, cybersecurity is a key enabler. With the data protection concern, with the threat landscape that is increasing, These are the key enablers that we must achieve in order to be successful. And of course, as the usual advice, you have to bake cybersecurity inside your solution and your initiative. It's not an afterthought. It's something that you have to do right in the initiative. We have to transform together with everyone else. We have to measure, track, and report our progress or achievement so that everybody knows what we do. And lastly, we have to automate and integrate with the technology, with developers in the CI and CD process. So we have to be as fast as our colleagues in the other side. I've been tracking the increase of a threat landscape since the COVID-19 start in January. You'll be surprised that when this pandemic affected all of us, the threat landscape has increased tremendously. You can see here that the first customized malware with the COVID-19 related theme was launched in Japan. And likewise, it goes to Asia, Europe, then finally worldwide. Different industries are being targeted. And it's not specific just to the desktop or the servers. It also goes to the mobile devices and even to nation state. So this just shows that the threat landscape has actually increased significantly compared to prior the pandemic. So you have a challenges now. You are challenged to quickly transform, but you also have to deal with the increased threat. This will show you a couple of recent incidents. And this is just came about last week, where we have a huge data breach in Singapore. One of the e-commerce platform, Lazada, had their 1.1 million database was sold online. Likewise, Eatigo, that is operating in 3 countries, have 2.8 million customer that is also sold online. And this particular website is credible because they were able to give a sample. So you see that there's a few samples. So you click on it, and you can see that there's a real data there. It's very interesting. Companies such as Garmin, who produce smartwatches for sports, that has been hit by ransomware. Travel website Carlson Wagonlit Travel also has been hit by ransomware in the last 2 months. And even Twitter, one of the world leading company, has also not spared from an incident where there's an incident, the high profile accounts as being hijacked for a Bitcoin scam. So you can see that from here that the threat landscape has tremendously increased, and it's not a theory, it is a fact. So what is the mind shift number 4? Well, go cloud, right? Cloud is the easiest and the fastest ways for us to do things. We don't have to buy the hardware, we don't have to buy the software, we don't have to integrate, everything is there, right? So this allows us to be agile and to respond to the business need for us to come up with something quickly. And I would argue that moving to the cloud would be even more secure than if you were to do it on premise. The question is, how do you do it? If you remember, on the cloud now, there's a lot of complementary solution. If we need SIEM, firewall, web application firewall, data loss prevention, e-discovery, everything is available as additional services that you can just turn on, and with no setup or limited setup, and it is available for you. So it is possible. Cloud is quite mature in that sense. We also are able to be more accountable to the business. By adopting to the cloud, we're able to present what are the true costs of enabling a certain services in the cloud with the cost that is reported on a monthly basis. Cloud technology has evolved. It's no longer just a virtualization, but you see that there's a container, there's orchestrations. It allows us to really spin up something really quickly. If there is an increased demand, we can quickly spin up to increase the demand as well through the dynamic spin up and spin down of the container. So that's the new technologies that all of us has to catch up as an auditor, security professional, or risk management personnel, because it's not the same, right? The way we assess security and harden security is not the same as with all these new technologies. And likewise, in the term of security, we have to catch up with the developers. If they are pushing the code on a daily basis, do we have a security processes that are able to detect and remediate on a daily basis? Can we automate some of those? There's a new area what we call SOAR, security orchestration, automation, and response. These are something that you should be looking at and be able to automate some of your capabilities in security area. The next mind shift is interesting. All my career, I've been trained to defend the enterprises, meaning that we define our crown jewels, our assets to be protected. We perform a risk assessment, risk treatment. We deploy controls. We monitor the controls. We try to protect our infrastructure and our assets. So all of us here has been used to do the blue teaming. That's what we call on the defense side. In the past decade, I think it's become clear that defending is not enough. You also need a specialized team that focuses only just to attack you. And this is to confirm and further validate whether your defenses are good enough and that it cannot be exploited. If your defenses are able to be penetrated, then your red team should be able to provide that information back to you so that you can strengthen your defenses. So that has been going on for a while, but I know in reality, many organizations will just do an annual pen test, and it's not good enough because the threat landscape could change significantly and very dynamically. So if you do your last pen test just before the COVID pandemic, which is in December last year, you shouldn't wait until December this year to do it. You should do it on a quarterly basis, on monthly basis, or even better, find a solution that could do a simulated pen test on a monthly basis or weekly basis, right? So there's no reason for us to stay to the previous understanding of how do we do things. But here's the more interesting thing, purple teaming. You got a defense, you got the attacker side, and sometimes these two are quite siloed. The red teaming focuses on attacking. The blue team defending, right? But the benefits are quite limited. So therefore, there is this new term called purple teaming. This is where we facilitate the red teaming and the purple teaming so that they can work together. There's a seamless flow between the blue and the purple. And therefore, your infrastructure and your asset will be well protected. And as I said, 1 + 1 doesn't always mean 2. It could be 11. And I just want to probably give you a quick overview about the case study. So prior to the pandemic, we have clinics, and we have about 40 over clinics in Singapore, and they are pretty localized, meaning that that particular clinic only serve that particular area, right? And because of that, it caused a lot of queuing time, challenges in getting doctors to staff that particular clinic on the peak time on holiday season. And that's the typical challenges prior to the pandemic. On technology side, we are running an obsolete clinical management system, but the risk is mitigated because it is a closed system. And there are a lot of duplication of data because every time you visit a different clinic, one entry is created for you. So you are seeing a lot of duplication of data because of the circuit breaker that people don't want to come to the clinic anymore. And the borders are closed, so we don't have any medical tourism. The demand from overseas, from the tourists as well from the domestic, went down sharply. We have almost no businesses, and that caused pay cut, reduction of workforce, and cash flow issues. And one way to get out from all this is really to accelerate our initiative in doing telemedicine. And we finally did that very well in collaboration with the CIOs and myself as the CISO. We worked closely and we deployed it in about 2-3 months' time. And because of the telemedicine is enabled, we were able to capture back that domestic demand. People who are not feeling well and they do not want to go to the clinic because they are concerned that they will be affected or contaminated, they can just do a video call. They speak with the doctors will prescribe them medicine, and the medicine will be delivered to their doorstep, and the payment will be done cashless. And this has worked so well. And coming back to the events, going above and beyond. When telemedicine is created, there's no borders. Technically speaking, we could help other countries. we could provide the healthcare services to another country, as long as the regulation allows it. And just to close up here, be transformative. It should be top-down approach. It should be the DNA of the organization. Cybersecurity is a key important factor. You cannot miss that. And lastly, it could be a long journey, but it is the best time to do this year. And this is an opportunity for all of us. With that, I would like to say thank you for listening to my presentations. I'll be happy to answer any question through the platform or through my email address. Thank you so much. I wish you a good day.